In London, of course, that was another interesting negotiation. Prabhupada told us, I got to London in September of 1969, and by that time Prabhupada was getting ready to get the place in Bury Place, 7 Bury Place. And what is a temple without deities? So Prabhupada gave us the instruction that you have to install Radha Krishna deities. But he didn't order the deities, and we didn't have any deities. He just said, such and such, December so-and-so was the date of the opening, and you have to have Radha Krishna deities. So we, started to go. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. How are you supposed to find Radha and Krishna in London? We just started to ask anyone and everyone. It was like a national alarm. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Radha and Krishna, please phone such and such number. And that was the number of Mukunda's wife, Janaki. So, well, it went, week after week went by, and Prabhupada would call us and say, where are the deities? And we said, we don't know where Radha and Krishna are. Prabhupada said, you have to have deities. So finally, miraculously, when we were practically giving up, we get this phone call. Janaki gets a phone call. Someone says, we have Radha Krishna deities. So immediately she informed Mukunda, and Mukunda and I went down to this man's house. And the man took us into his study, and he said, I have some Radha Krishna marble deities. Would you like to look at them? So, would we like to look at them? We were ready to jump out of our skins, practically. Sure, we wanted to look at them. And he took off the cloth, and, we just offered our obeisances, because that was Radhalanda. So we said, they're beautiful. They're so beautiful. They were beautiful. And he said, well, I'm considering that I may be willing to give them to your temple. So we said, well, we have to, can we bring our spiritual master to see them? And he said, yes, you can do so. So we raced out, and we went to a phone booth. I remember we called immediately to Prabhupada's apartment. Prabhupada was living near Regent's Park, a very nice apartment. And we called up, and he was resting, so we decided just to go over there. We went in there, we told him, Prabhupada, we found Radha and Krishna. So Prabhupada immediately said, take me, I want to see them. So we had a van. We used to have a van. And it was Prabhupada and Mukunda, Shamsundar, and myself, maybe Gurudas, came in the van, and we went in. And by that time was the early evening. Prabhupada came in, and he started to talk with this Indian gentleman, in a very friendly way. The man said that these deities were ordered already for society, but somehow or other things had not worked out. There was some difficulty, and they could not use the deity. So Prabhupada would just ignore the point, and he just kept asking the man, where are you from? How are you? How's your wife? He made the man bring his wife in, bring the children in. Prabhupada, gave his blessings to everyone, just talking. And finally the man, said, Swamiji, don't you want to see the deities? And Prabhupada said, oh, yes, we can see the deities. It was just so nonchalant, as if he was not even interested. So, he said, please, I want to show them to you. So he took the man took Prabhupada over, and he showed him the deities. And Prabhupada looked and said, And he just turned around and walked and sat back in the sofa. So the man said, Swamiji, what do you think? Can you use the deity? Prabhupada said, they looked like they may be used. He said, well, I'm thinking I can give them to you. Prabhupada said, yes, we could accept them. And he said, he asked me, go and see how heavy the deity is. So I went over, and Shamsundar went over, and I tilted Radharani, and I said, not very heavy. And she was heavy, but I said, not very heavy. Shamsundar had Krishna. Prabhupada said, all right, we'll take them now. He said, pick them up, and then the man said, wait, Swamiji, wait a moment. I think maybe he had an idea of recovering some of the cost. I don't know what he had an idea. He said, wait. And he said, no, there's no problem. It's not heavy. These are American boys. They're very strong. And we carried the deities out, and the man was just protesting, Swamiji, 1 minute. And we walked right out to the van. and brought Radha Krishna, put them in, and Prabhupada sat down in the seat next to the driver's seat. And he said, I'll take care of the deities. We'll be in touch with you. And the man just, the whole family was out there, and they were just like this. And Prabhupada said, okay, let's drive. So we drove off, and when we got around the corner, Prabhupada said, stop the car. And then we stopped the van, and Prabhupada said, take the cloth off the deities. We took the deities, and then Prabhupada just started to offer prayers. There were tears in his eyes, and he started to sing the prayers from Brahma Samhita. And he said, Krishna has now appeared in London.
And in the course of moving the deities, I believe each man two per deity, I was following. One of them knocked. The curtains were closed. We were behind adjusting the deities. And one of the persons, somehow or another, inadvertently knocked one of these columns with their elbow. And in as fast as an accident happens in an automobile going 70 miles an hour, everything slowed down into slow motion. And I remember watching this column go out with the speed of lightning. Srila Prabhupada moved all of the paraphernalia with his right hand off the bottom granite step, stepped up with his right foot on the first step, his left foot on the second step, grabbed one column, this huge column. The column was at least 6 to 8 inches in diameter, with his right hand, and Radharani's hand with his left hand. And I saw on his brow little beads of perspiration, the first time I had ever seen him perspire. And this was such a chivalrous thing that Srila Prabhupada did that I understood what the rasa of chivalry was. And he had that in protecting Radharani. Well, that's one example of Srila Prabhupada exhibiting a very personal rasa with Krishna, actually saving Radharani from disaster and exhibiting superhuman strength and the alacrity of the movement of the mind. It couldn't have been faster.
Early on, in 67, maybe even or early 68, I had proposed to Prabhupada that I would go to London and meet the Beatles. This is what I wanted to do. And I didn't realize I had thought about it at all early on. I thought it was an idea that we all came up with later, but apparently that idea grew in Prabhupada's mind, because then he sent a letter to Mukunda later in the spring of 68 saying, what do you think of Shamsundar's idea to go to London and meet the Beatles? It was never to start a temple, it was to meet the Beatles. Without any building permits, we gutted the whole interior of this building in downtown London. Took out the the first floor story and made it 2 stories high until the building inspectors caught us, Mr. Savage and Mr. Black. I had worked hard on this Berry Place temple, several months building carpentry, and we didn't have the devotees to help then in those days. There were only 3 or 4 of us total, and a couple of English boys, new English boys, so it was pretty much a one-man job. And I was going to stick to the standard that I'd set out when I designed it, even though Prabhupada was in England pushing me day and night to finish this thing so he could get on with things. But he respected the fact that I wanted it done just right, because it was going to be a central showplace in what was then the most happening city in the world, and right in the main street, and that people who saw it should see something perfectly done. I was determined to make it that way, and Prabhupada went along with that for months, despite his discomfort. And one day after we walked, it was finished. The deities had been inaugurated. We took a walk in the park one morning shortly thereafter. We were walking back in, and Prabhupada looked at the front of the temple, and he looked it up and down, and he motioned to, I believe it was to Gurudas or Mukunda, and he said, you shall put a plaque on the front of this door, and he showed with his cane beside the door a place where he wanted the plaque, a brass plaque. And you will put on that plaque, this temple has been built by the hard labor of Shyamsundar Das. There you go.
We arrived in London, and as we were landing in London, I was so excited because, I'd heard how Malati and Shyamasundar and Wakunda and Janaki and Guru Das and the devotees were all there, and they were doing a lot of, service they're building up a new center. And we'd heard about the Beatles, how the Beatles had, taken an interest in Krishna consciousness, and I was just expecting, a big reception for Srila Prabhupada. It would be very special, as they always were, Prabhupada's reception. But this would be extra special, because Prabhupada maybe was going to meet the Beatles or something. So we landed, and then we were collecting our bags, and Prabhupada was just chanting his japa, and then one of Prabhupada's bags didn't arrive, a very important bag, the bag with all of his books, the commentaries by the acharyas that he was using for his writing. Didn't come. We waited and waited, and everybody left, and we could hear the kirtan outside, in the reception hall. We could hear a big kirtan going on, and then, there was no bag. And Shyamasundar was really come to the airport to meet us. He was really upset, and he said, he said, someone's going to have to stay and wait for this bag. So when he said it, I kind of tried to hide, behind a pillar. He said, so Prabhupada Indradumna can stay, and he'll bring the bag to the temple there. I said, yes, it's very important. I'm going to miss the reception. So everybody left, and I saw Prabhupada walk out the door, and I could see the kirtan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. A big fire. No, I gotta wait for this bag. Why did they lose the bag? So I waited about an hour and a half. And finally, somehow they found the bag. And they brought it to me. I was waiting by the ticket counter. They brought it to me. And it was a big bag, huge, big suitcase. And it was just packed full of books. It was really heavy. I could hardly lift it myself. So I put it in a trolley, and I went outside, and I'd been in London before, but it was some years ago, and I didn't know really how to get around, and I said, I'll just take a taxi. So it was raining and cold, and I was miserable, and I missed the reception, and there were no devotees around. I got the taxi, and I got to put the bag in there, and got in. He said, where do you want to go? I said, 7 Bury Place. So he looked back, he said, are you all right, boy? You okay, son? I said, no. He said, anything I can do to help you? No, I missed the reception of my spiritual master. You what? I have a spiritual master. I'm a devotee in the Hare Krishna. Oh, the ones that sing down there in the Oxford Street. Oh, well, sorry about that. Anyway, it's always a better day. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Got to the temple. It was even raining harder. And I got out and paid him, and big bag, walked up the stairs, knocked on the door, some devotee, big blissful face. Oh, Hare Krishna, who are you? I'm Indradumna Dasi. Came on the flight with Srila Prabhupada. I had to wait behind for his bag. Oh, come on in. Came in, bag down, and I was thinking, well, God, at least I'll get some prasadam. Must have been a good feast. And then the devotees are all sitting around with these paper plates, and all the paper plates are empty. It's the yellow turmeric stains and a few finger marks through the ghee on the plate. I'm going, Prabhu, is there any prasadam? Ah, Prabhu, you missed the prasadam. You should have come about, a couple hours earlier. Oh, and you missed the reception. The reception for Prabhupada was so ecstatic. Prabhupada spoke so nicely. We had big kirtan. I'm going, oh, please. There's no prasadam, not even a pakora? Nope. Oh, okay, well, can some of you guys help me carry this bag upstairs? Prabhupada's upstairs. Yeah, he has a room upstairs. Can you help me carry this bag upstairs? Oh, we're so full. Oh, I can't help. Can you help? No, I'm full. I can't. So I'll do it myself. I was starting to get angry at that bag. Later, I understood that bag was the source of all good fortune for me. So Bury Place Temple was, the steps were very steep going up to every level. So I was boom, boom, taking that bag up. I don't remember what floor Prabhupada's room was on, maybe the 3rd floor or something, and I was exhausted by the time. Tired, hungry, hadn't showered. And then I saw the door, it said, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Prabhupada's there, so. I didn't even knock. I just opened the door. I didn't think, again, the etiquette, I was just so excited, I'm going to see Prabhupada again. Tired and confused, a little confused. I opened the door, and I turned around, and I started dragging Prabhupada's suitcase in backwards. And I'm dragging, looking at Prabhupada's room, and all of a sudden, Nanda Kumar, who was serving Srila Prabhupada in London as a servant, he said, "Hey, watch out! You're going to bump into Srila Prabhupada." And I dropped the bag, and I turned around, and I was this far away from Prabhupada. He was just standing there, Hare Krishna. And I said, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada." And I fell down on the ground. And I started offering my obeisances. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta. And all of a sudden, on my back, there was a slap on my back. And I thought, oh, Prabhupada slapped me on the back. I couldn't figure out if it was like out of love or anger. I didn't know, because either would be a blessing. And I can still, that right there on the back right there, Prabhupada's blessing. And I just continued, Namaste, Saraswati, and then Prabhupada said something. But I couldn't hear. He said it kind of softly. And then after a few moments, I was right near Prabhupada's feet. His feet walked away, and he went to another part of the chamber, the room there. So I waited, and I got up. Prabhupada wasn't in the room anymore. And Nanda Kumar was there, and I looked over at him, and his mouth was open, like. And I said, "Prabhu, what happened?" He said, "Prabhupada slapped you on the back." I said, "Yeah, I know." It hit me hard. "Yeah, I know." I said, "And what did he say?" And he smiled. He said, "Oh, it was so nice." He said, "Prabhupada told you, so much endeavor in this material world, but when I take you back home, back to Godhead, everything will be easy and sublime." Srila Prabhupada ki. So, all of us, we receive so many instructions from Srila Prabhupada in the books, but if a disciple is fortunate enough to get a personal instruction or a personal blessing from the spiritual master, they treasure that and they keep it in their heart forever. And quite often, as the years went on and there were sometimes difficulties in Krishna consciousness, as the movement spread, there was so much opposition, and just the daily service of going out on Sankirtan, it was cold, it was hot, I was tired, or there were days like that. And I just remember those words: so much endeavor in this material world, but when I take you back home, back to Godhead, everything will be easy and sublime. So I just, when those days come, I just think like that. Those are Prabhupada's words. Let us struggle to serve Srila Prabhupada, push on the Sankirtan movement in this world, because in the end, Prabhupada's going to take us all back home, back to Godhead. And when we go back to the spiritual world, everything's going to be easy and sublime.
The atmosphere was, as it always was whenever Prabhupada was present, incredibly intense, but now it had a special intensity because it was more than clear that Prabhupada was making his last appearance for us in the West. And what struck me was his having darshan of Radha Gokulananda, no words spoken, but simply his presence before the deities. One had a clear sense that he is now simply reciprocating with the deities, and they are saying, yes, it's that time. And then after 1 or 2 days, the news came that Prabhupada was going to Buri Place. And Prabhupada came into the temple and came before the deities, and this time he took off his sunglasses. He had been keeping them on all the time, but this time in front of Radha Landaneshwara, he took them off. One could see the tears streaming down his face. It was pretty amazing.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to all of you. I feel so honored to speak today, especially to the ladies who are courageously and joyfully going out on Sankirtan in London and have organized this magnificent and wonderful Harinam and book distribution festival. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you for showing up today, despite the cold, despite the rain, despite the noise and the constant movement of the city. You're still choosing to come and carry the holy name with sincerity and care. Sankirtan is not just an activity, it's an offering of the heart, and it requires humility and faith. And each of you is making that offering in your own unique way. You know, London has a very special place in the history of Harinam Sankirtan. When Srila Prabhupada came here, this city became one of the first places outside of India, other than America, of course, where the holy name was boldly sung in the streets. Oxford Street, parks, public spaces, the devotees would go out every single day chanting Hare Krishna and distributing Bhakti Gaudiya magazines right in the heart of London. People may not have understood the philosophy, the language, the culture, the way they were dressed, but they heard the sound, and that sound began to work. Srila Prabhupada emphasized again and again the power of this simple act. He said, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one associates with the Lord directly. This chanting will cleanse the dust from the heart. Lord Chaitanya states in his Shikshastakam, this Sankirtan activity is the prime benediction for humanity at large, and it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. How beautiful is that? That is what Harinam does. It works quietly, invisibly, and irresistibly. When you chant in the streets of London, you're not just making a sound, you're offering people a moment of spiritual contact that can stay with them for a lifetime. With each book that you distribute, you're enabling an individual to begin their spiritual journey in bhakti. So because devotees took this seriously in the early days, and you are continuing that legacy in the present, Harinam in London has become a beacon to the world. Devotees everywhere in the past looked and felt so inspired. If the holy name can be sung in London, then it can be sung everywhere. And that legacy does continue today because of you. So today we're also celebrating a very, very tangible milestone, the purchase of 7 Bury Place. Hari Bol. A temple is not just bricks and mortar and walls. It's a place where mercy takes shelter. It's a place where Sankirtan rests, refuels, and rises again. The fact that Krishna has provided this incredible facility in such a significant location, honoring the past where Srila Prabhupada first began here in London, is not accidental. It's a response to sacrifice, perseverance, and faith in devotional service. And for those of you doing Sankirtan, this achievement belongs to you as well. Long before this building was purchased, it was earned through footsteps on the street, through mantras sung, and through books placed into searching hands. So today I really especially want to acknowledge the ladies on Sankirtan. This month we'll also be honoring the ladies Sankirtan party of the past, of the 70s and 80s, who served tirelessly to purchase and renovate our Soho Street Temple for Sri Sri Radha Londoneshwara. There's going to be a special festival and a plaque installed on the 23rd of January. Srila Prabhupada was very clear about the importance of women in spreading Krishna consciousness. So let this be the beginning of a new era of the ladies' Sankirtan party here in London. Your compassion, your strength, ladies, and your sensitivity to reach people in ways that are often unseen but deeply powerful You may never know how one smile, how one conversation, or one book can change the course of someone's life. But Krishna knows. So as we move forward with Seven Berry Place, may it become a launching point for even more Harinam, more book distribution, and more heartfelt outreach. And may you always remember that when you chant in the streets of London, you are walking in a sacred lineage, carrying a sound that has already transformed this city and will continue to do so. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for your courage. And thank you for carrying the holy name forward, one step, one mantra, and one soul at a time. Shri Shri Radha Londoneshwara Ki Jai. All glories to Shri Nam Sankirtan. Param Vijayate. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Hare Krishna.